We started our business in 2009 and grew fairly steadily through in 1,800 square feet on Pleasant Street. We determined somewhere in the neighborhood of 2013 that we were going to need to expand. We looked around at a lot of commercial property in the Claremont area and determined that nothing fit perfectly. It all needed some sort of renovation. It all carried the full tax burden with it, and really was difficult to make feasible for us. So we started trying to think of what we could potentially do to solve our problem, and I didn't want to rent if we could help it. So we thought about that. My wife actually mentioned the property that was abandoned on Water Street, the old Reliable Paper Building. So through a little bit of research through the deed office, we discovered the owner's name and contacted him and took a walk inside the building, and it was immediate that this was really the place we needed to be. One walk through and we just saw the potential. So from there it was trying to figure out how we could make it feasible. We spent about 6 months doing feasibility between engineering, making structural engineering and architectural plans, and kind of putting numbers together to see if we could actually pull it off. Mm-hmm. The building is 12,500 square feet. We are currently occupying about 4,500 of it on the first floor. The entire second floor is going to be self-storage, heated self-storage, and we have a small retail space that we will be getting ready for rent on the first floor next to ours. So when we purchased the building, the brick was crumbling in spots. It was actually missing on the back side of the building to the big enough to drive a full-size vehicle through. There was pretty significant rot in the basement in the carrying timbers from having water pour in that hole for such a long period of time. The other kind of obstacles were beyond that. The load calculations of older buildings don't necessarily meet today's code specs. So we had to put a lot of extra support in the basement side and on the first floor to accommodate the uses that we were trying to do. Mm-hmm. So we restored. I spent almost an entire winter restoring as many of the sashes as I could pull out and strip and reglaze, and we couldn't quite find enough sashes that were savable to do the whole building, so we ended up having to buy about 8 windows. We restored the front doors, but we added a bunch of doors. We also, when we purchased the building, it was brick faced on both sides. There was the electricity in there hadn't been on in 10 or 15 years. There was relatively no plumbing, and there was no interior walls. So we ended up building walls inside the brick walls so that we had a place for insulation, wiring, plumbing, all that. So it was a big project. The heating system that we put in is a high efficiency propane, what they call a condensing propane boiler. It's about 99.5% efficient. We scavenged radiators from all over New England, sandblasted them, painted them, and so we've got antique radiators of different shapes and sizes all throughout the building. I love the way it looks, and it certainly works really, really well.
Right.
So.
Right.
The brick still needs to be cleaned on the outside of the building. We've got a little bit of gutter work that needs to happen, just to try to get some of the drip off, like where people are walking. And then there's a small garage bay on the right-hand side of the building that needs to be addressed in terms of have clapboards put back on it. The storage should be ready, we're hoping, for March. Mm-hmm. So we need to build the boxes up there, and that's about it.
Right.
A little bit of access control, but that should be ready to go somewhere around March. Absolutely everything from the ground up from the electrical system is new. So all LED lights throughout the building, it just makes sense. We're currently, obviously, in a space that's at least 3 times what we were in, and our electric bill is just maybe 10, 15% higher. So we've obviously made some efficiencies.
Right.
When we started doing feasibility, we determined that we were going to have to put between $400,000 and $500,000 into the property in order to get it to where it needed to be. When you start looking at what it takes to pay that kind of money back, because we didn't have it in our pocket, you know, we figured that it was somewhat feasible, with the exception of if we had an assessment that was a tax assessment that was anywhere near those kind of numbers, we essentially wouldn't be able to afford the building out of the gate. So I looked around, I talked to some of the state agencies and discovered a voluntary law called 79E, which is one which towns can choose to adopt or not. But if they adopt, it allows in certain instances in a downtown historic structure to be able to do a renovation and have the property be assessed at pre-renovation dollars for a specific period of time. And that's at the discretion of the governing body. So in Claremont's case, it was the city council, to A, adopt, and B, the terms of the administration of the law. I was fortunate enough to have the city council back me on getting 79E through, as well as approving my application for a 6-year period of time. So I have tax relief for a 6-year period of time before the full assessment will kick in. And basically what that allows us to do is to get our feet on the ground and generate some income from the top floor, from the storage area, which will help us pay the tax bill. So it was, I will say, it was critical. Without it, we would not have been able to do the project. Every city or town is a little bit different in the way that they structure their plan. The tax benefit is meant to generate future increased revenue, pure and simple. If you amortize what our property was over a 12-year period or 10 or 12-year period of time, with renovation or without, and with this plan, the city's much further ahead in a 10-year period of time than if we had done nothing, because it will carry a pretty healthy tax bill when we feel the full brunt of it. But every city and town has the right to build in their covenant, which is the paperwork that determines the terms of the agreement. In Claremont's case, whatever tax relief they give you, they will double the amount of time of the covenant, meaning you have to maintain the property to a certain level. You can't sell it to a nonprofit that would then be tax exempt over that period of time. And it basically, it says that if the building burns down and is not rebuilt, that you go back to zero and never, and basically retroactively have to pay whatever the difference in taxes were. And that's protection so that you couldn't buy a building, realize the benefits of the taxes, and then turn it over to a nonprofit, and the city never realizes the gain that they certainly should have realized. So that's how that works. So in my case, we have 6 years of tax relief. We will have, our covenant will cover 12 years. So for a 12-year period of time, the building cannot be sold to a nonprofit. We have to maintain it. We have to pay our taxes. Makes sense. And if there's any sort of major insurance loss, it either has to be rebuilt or we have to pay back. It's really unique working as a husband and wife. It can be challenging. It's hard to not take it home. But our roles are such that, you know, I have my area of expertise that I handle, she has hers, and if we're both doing our job, we get along pretty well.
Sure.
We still like to go on vacations and stuff together, so we must still like each other.
Right.